Imagine you are standing in your kitchen, staring at a block of cheddar cheese. You want to save the world. You know that industrial dairy is a heavy burden on the atmosphere, so you tell yourself you will never eat it again. But in that exact moment of resolve, something strange happens. You do not feel like a hero. You feel a hollow sense of mourning. You feel sad. This is the great climate paradox. We are told that the only way to save our future is to make our present miserable. We are told that the survival of the species depends on a long, slow march of deprivation. But why does our brain react to global salvation with the same neurochemical grief we feel when we lose a friend? To understand this, we have to look into the evolutionary engine of the human mind. For millions of years, our ancestors lived in a world of scarcity. If you found a high-calorie food source or a warm piece of animal hide, your brain rewarded you with a surge of dopamine. To the primitive mind, less always equaled danger. It meant starvation, cold, and death. We are biologically hardwired to view the act of giving something up as a threat to our survival. This is why when we hear the word sacrifice, our amygdala, the almond-shaped center of fear in our brain, lights up like a flare. We are literally programmed to resist the very actions we know are necessary for our collective future. The hidden machinery at work here is a concept known as loss aversion. Behavioral scientists have discovered that the pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the joy of gaining that same thing. If I give you $10, you feel a small bump of happiness. But if I take $10 out of your pocket, the sting is twice as intense. Now, apply this to the planet. For decades, the narrative has been about less, drive less, eat less, buy less. To a brain that evolved to crave more as a survival mechanism, this feels like a slow death by 1,000 cuts. It triggers shame and guilt, and as any psychologist will tell you, those emotions are the enemies of change. They make us retreat. They make us close the tab and look away. But what if we could trick the engine? What if we could align our biological craving for happiness with the mechanical needs of the planet? This is the core of a new strategy, a sweet spot where the carbon footprint drops and the smile widens. Consider a mundane daily habit like eating dinner. Imagine you are looking at a plate of vibrant roasted vegetables. A few years ago, a series of experiments was conducted where people who rarely touched a vegetable were put on a plant-based diet for 60 days. By the end of those 2 months, their reported happiness levels had skyrocketed. Why? Because plants are packed with phytochemicals and antioxidants that physically reduce inflammation in the brain. We aren't just saving the world by eating a salad, we are literally fertilizing our own mental well-being. This is a primary example of a happy climate action. It is not about the cheese you lost, it is about the neurological clarity you gained. Now, let us look at the high-stakes systemic level. Imagine a massive urban center, a concrete jungle of millions. For a century, cities were built for cars, private metal bubbles that keep us isolated. But some cities are rewriting the code. They are building massive networks of bike lanes and urban forests. On the surface, this reduces emissions. But deeper down, it exploits a biological loop. When you bike, your body activates the endocannabinoid system, the same system responsible for the famous runner's high. You aren't just commuting, you are self-medicating for joy. When a government builds a park instead of a parking lot, they aren't just sequestering carbon, they are creating a space for social connection, which is the single greatest predictor of human longevity and happiness. But wait, does this always work? There is a critical lens we must apply. If we try to force ourselves into total deprivation, the brain rebels. This is why the concept of the treat is so vital. One study showed that temporarily giving up something we love actually resets our hedonic adaptation. It means that if you eat beef every single day, the joy you get from it eventually flatlines to zero. It becomes a background noise. But if you make it a rare event, a celebration, your brain perceives it with the intensity of the very first time. By doing less of it, you actually enjoy it more. The limitation of the traditional environmental movement was its demand for perfection. Perfection is a recipe for failure because it ignores how our reward circuitry actually functions. Imagine you are standing in front of your refrigerator. It is likely a chaotic mess of half-used jars and wilting greens hidden in the bottom drawers. This is a psychological trap called out of sight, out of mind. We forget what we have, it rots, we throw it away, and we feel the low-level hum of guilt. But what if you treated your fridge like a piece of high-end retail design? Move the perishables to the door. Put the condiments in the drawers. This simple act of organization creates a sense of control and visual harmony. It reduces food waste, a massive driver of emissions, while simultaneously lowering your daily cortisol levels. You are using the principles of human behavior to make sustainability the path of least resistance. Let us travel further. Think about the way we move across the globe. We often think of travel as a series of stressful points to be checked off. Fly to New York for a day, fly back. But there is a concept called time affluence. This is the feeling that you actually have enough time to breathe, to think, and to connect. When we bundle our trips, when we stay longer in one place and see more people instead of taking 5 separate flights, we are trading carbon for time. Research shows that people who value time over money are consistently happier. By refusing to rush, we are not just saving fuel, we are reclaiming our own lives from the clock. Think about the way you shop. Fast fashion is a cycle of cheap hits that leave us feeling empty and cluttered. A high-stakes example of this is the global textile industry, which produces more emissions than international flights and maritime shipping combined. But what if we applied the treat strategy here? Imagine buying one high-quality jacket that lasts a decade instead of 10 cheap ones that fall apart in months. The brain loves quality. It loves the tactile feel of something well-made. By shifting from quantity to quality, we satisfy the ancient hunter-gatherer urge to find the best resources while stepping off the treadmill of hyper-consumption. However, we must be careful. The happy climate approach is not a magic wand that solves the systemic failures of fossil fuel giants. We cannot simply smile our way out of a coal plant. But individual actions are the ripples that create the wave. When we change our behavior, we send a market signal. We tell businesses what we value. We show our neighbors what is possible. Individual change is the precursor to structural change. It is the proof of concept that a different life is not only possible, but actually preferable. Oh, so, where does this leave you? You are sitting there, perhaps reflecting on the choices you made today. The mystery of the human mind is that it is both our greatest obstacle and our most powerful tool. We have spent decades trying to scare people into being better, and it has largely failed because the brain is built to shut down in the face of overwhelming fear. But what if the secret to the future isn't a hair shirt and a vow of silence? What if the secret is a bike ride through a park, a perfectly organized fridge, and a slow, intentional meal with friends? What if the way we save the world is by finally learning how to live well? I want you to perform an audit. Look at your life not through the lens of what you need to give up, but through the lens of where your happiness and the planet's health overlap. Where is your sweet spot? Is it in the garden? Is it in the quiet moments of a train ride instead of a stressful flight? Is it in the community you build when you share a ride? The narrative of sacrifice is old. It is tired, and it is biologically incorrect. The new narrative is one of alignment. It is about realizing that the things that make our souls feel heavy are often the same things that make the atmosphere heavy, and the things that make us light, connection, nature, health, and time, are the very things that will allow our world to breathe again. Take a breath. Look around. The hidden engines of your mind are waiting for a new set of instructions. Don't fight your nature, use it. Because if we can make the right thing the happy thing, then the future is not something to fear. It is something to anticipate with a genuine sense of wonder. Yo, thank you for walking through the corridors of the mind with me today. If you found a spark of curiosity in this exploration, I invite you to audit your own habits this week. Find one action that saves a gram of carbon and adds a gram of joy. Then, join us for the next deep dive as we continue to decode the behavioral mysteries of our world. The journey into the human heart is long, but is the only one worth taking. Until next time.